Hi, yeah, I'm Geech. I'm a technical director in Atkins Réalis. I've been looking after digital and global transformation programs for about the last 10 years within this company, but wider in the sector as well. I think the answer is absolutely yes. If it is a trend, we've been acting in the trend for the last 12 years, so I want to think it's outside of a typical kind of trend cycle. There's absolute intent that the sector wants to drive productivity and respond to the societal needs that we see everywhere. So we want our infrastructure to give us more. We want our infrastructure to be able to learn and adapt to the way in which we will interact with the environment and our wider societal needs. Without constant and onward focus and standing still, we will never ever drive that principle into the infrastructure that we develop. So it's not a trend. We've been focused on it for at least a decade, if not more. And what we're seeing now is a real groundswell and adoption of principles of data, principles of behavioural change, and principles of scale. In our business, we've already seen the scale of many automation approaches in the way in which we look after some of our more commoditized services. So looking at services across the water sector where we're trying to demand a better outcome from our customers, we understand many of our processes are highly repeatable, right? So we've absolutely established automation in those spaces today, and that has meant that our engineers continue to focus on new trends, new issues, new needs from our infrastructure as we respond to the regulators. Engineering and the principle of what we need from our infrastructure just does not stand still. Society does not stand still. What we need to make from our infrastructure and its interaction with the environment is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So absolutely, I do not see engineering's roles diminishing. I absolutely see engineering's roles increasing as we focus on more credible responses from our infrastructure to those demand signals. 2 weeks ago, I had the privilege of being in our practice leadership session. In our leadership sessions, we absolutely make sure we spend as much time focusing on our early careers as we do with our established careers. The response from listening to kind of 4 of our graduates and early career professionals was the drive towards purpose-driven careers. These individuals have come to us and to the sector on a purpose that they can drive betterment in the way we deliver infrastructure. Their purpose around sustainability and their purpose around demonstrating new ways of working in engineering was immensely clear. So fundamentally, I say the sector is driven by these amazing individuals who are going to keep us true to their commitment, to their drive, to having a better future for the planet, for the infrastructure that we all deliver. I think this is one of those fundamental principles of the sector. You know, we are characteristically made up of hyper-fragmented supply chains, and even some of our kind of principles in the way in working, in the way in which we must, for the right principles in safety, review and update designs and undertake different categories of checks on those designs mean we must have common and accessible knowledge. The lack of tooling to help people improve on their workflows in their daily life has probably been one of the biggest issues. And it's one of the biggest responses that I've seen as a positive from the current use of large language models. So we can now look at many of the low value, high repetitive tasks that we do in our day-to-day life and really leverage these large language models to help us make a better product and save on time and waste. A beautiful example I've been seeing this week is how we can co-match CVs to people's current CV. We can look at them next to job descriptions and look for points of improvement. That used to be a manual process. We used to take hours going back and forth with our team to make sure our CVs are truly tailored to their skill set, but also respond to the client's need and the client's brief. We can now do that in the minutes, and that's absolutely fantastic. We're obviously seeing the large language models really help us in the processing of large data sets that were very humanistically hard to get behind at single points. Would we have 2 weeks to read the full commercial suite of documentation, and how new large language approaches are really helping us get the better outcome in a much more rapid space. I think sadly due to that hyperfragmentation, we will characteristically still see inefficiencies and rework. But I'm really seeing a drive from individuals that they want to adopt new tools, they want to cut out the waste, they want to leverage the value of data in the right way and start making those changes. So my answer to that is actually quite the opposite of the intent of the question. So actually, low profit margins are our environment. What has been missing is the accessibility for our traditional project managers and professionals to really understand how agility and agile methodologies can be used in the sector. And I've seen for the last 4 to 5 years, especially in my area of work, that we now find it much more typical to put agile delivery methodologies at the heart of what we do. So we are seeing always, we soften the message of agile delivery, but we're absolutely seeing a tendency to push towards agile approaches where we see kind of principles of daily stand-ups, principles of sizing of work and activities, and those really valuable elements that really drive collaboration across the project teams come into play. I fundamentally don't think people are resistant to that change. It's just that there's a lack of knowledge, and we have to upskill, train, and demonstrate through application how valuable these methods can be. When we can demonstrate the value of those methods, we unlock that additional time and waste that we'd have had from the very kind of waterfall delivery methodologies, and we can really start looking at outperformance and transformation. I don't believe anybody comes to work in our sector to fail, right? And I find that probably most of the perceived failure that we have, or the low productivity that's driven, is due to the huge siloed approach of kind of the engineers working within the engineering bracket based on what the planners have set out, going forward to the construction and contractor specialists who then can kind of poke holes in what the engineers and the designers have done. Wouldn't it be an amazing world where that knowledge was accessible across the life cycle of a project? Okay, so wouldn't it be amazing that our designers could sit alongside construction specialists to really make sure that their first principles of design are right and deliverable, so we can mitigate that waste and we can really try and outperform and out-improve in that sector. So I think there are really interesting approaches in the community. Obviously, we see things like Project 13 that are trying to drive integration across the life cycle of programs. Wouldn't it be amazing that we could look at new future cities? We could take a product life cycle view of that city that's got a full cognitive approach and really break down what that means from the master planning activities through to early and concept design into detailed, and how that's then delivered in construction. It would be absolutely fantastic to adopt these approaches, and so that's a kind of scale of systems engineering, but systems engineering met by the capability of our professionals to really understand the problem statements, to drive that outperformance, and just share knowledge across the life cycle. I have had the most enjoyable times when I have had really experienced construction specialists come and sit down with me in my early career and outline some of the principles of what we were doing, like stockpile analysis and where stockpile placement would be, and how they would, from their experiences, optimise that. Don't put that material there, we need to think about the haul roads, the redevelopment of that area, what's the complexity of the workflow that they just have intrinsically in their mind, and how that can apply into the design phase. Be absolutely fantastic. And I'm sure in doing that we deliver to our outcomes, to our budgets, to our time frames, and also just drive a much better kind of product for society.